So forgetful. Remember that time in the hotel?
Maria?
You said you took everything, but you forgot that videotape we made. I wonder if it's still there.
How do you know about that? Aren't you crazy?
Hello, my wonderful people. Welcome to a silent cast. And we finished Silent Hill 2, guys. Silent Hill 2 Remake. And I'm not gonna lie, this game got me in my feels a little bit. I was trying so hard to be strong, but the more I thought about the game and the way they did it, the way they portrayed it, the way they just did amazing. Obviously, yes, the story was already out there, the game was already out there, and but they sowed the emotions, they sowed it. But like I said, we'll get into all that in just a minute, guys. Of course, as you guys come in, please like, that would greatly kindly appreciate that. Like the video, subscribe, and let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. So we beat Silent Hill 2 remake, guys, and of course, if you have not seen that live stream, go check it out. um when I say I got so much emotions running through me about this game, I'm not joking. Um, this is my honest, open review on this game. Is it bad, guys, that I want to cry? Like, when I say this game's got me in my feels, I'm not joking. I feel myself just tearing up as we speak, because as you guys see the screen, it's this scene alone that makes you feel like, you know, I'm sorry, guys. I'm literally tearing up right now because it's just so sad. Yes, we get what he did, we get what she did, but it's like, I'm gonna go off on a tangent a lot, guys, so I apologize ahead of time. Relationships are probably one of the most difficult things to not only portray in a video game, but just to have in general, right? Um, so relationships are, I see why people are single. I see why people don't do it. I see why people kind of just, have fun here and there, because it's a lot. And there's so many times where I remember talking literally to my mom about how, sickness plays upon people's health. It plays upon people's mental health. It plays it weighs on your family. It weighs on your kids. Like, it weighs on everybody, right? So as you guys know, just kind of give you uh um a little snippet of Silent Hill, especially for the ones who might come and see Silent Hill, like see this before they actually see the game, or didn't finish the game. Um, but regardless, please, guys, if you haven't seen the game, this review, honest review of the game, is going to have spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled about what's gonna happen and what's going on, don't watch this. With the most utmost love and respect, please don't watch this, guys. Because this is going to have spoilers, right? So, as you guys know, Silent Hill is a single-player psychological horror game where a widower, James Sunderland, this gentleman right here with the blonde hair, returns to ghost town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his deceased wife. Of course, it's combat oriented. It's also heavy story based. It's great, wonderful soundtrack. It's absolutely freaking amazing. It's available on Microsoft Windows, so PC, and PlayStation 5. Um, the release date was October 7th, 2024. So it was released last year. Platforms were, of course, like I just said, and the composer is Akira not Yo. Why I keep saying Yo? Composer Akira Yamamoka. I probably said that incorrectly. I do apologize. I will put the name. I keep forgetting to put the name as I edit, but hey, I can't be perfect, right? So, but of course, Konami is also shout out to Konami as the devs. But regardless of that, Silent Hill started. Obviously with PlayStation 2, they still did very well on portraying James's story. Now, obviously, the emotions were hard to do back in the day because a lot of our technology back in the day wasn't the best. It wasn't perfect whatsoever, right? But now they sold it. Like when anytime I looked at James, I looked at his eyes. I wondered if his eyes told the story. And that's what I look for. Like a person that's a demisexual. If you guys don't know, a demisexual is a person has to be spiritually and emotionally connected to anyone before anything can conspire. Because anything could be there. And I'm a proud demi. Because like I said, for the longest time, side note, guys, side note, I thought something was wrong with me because I didn't really connect with a lot of people. A lot of people felt cold. And so I kept my distance. I kept my distance away from people because I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not really feeling this. And I thought something was wrong with me because, I've seen people making friends. I've seen people, jump into relationships after relationships after relationships. And me, I'm kind of just like, yeah, I'm good. But no, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I have to have some type of strong spiritual and emotional connection to them before anything can happen. And that's what I look for in my games. Not for someone to be demisexual, for the ones that be like, you want him to be gay? No. I'm talking about I want him to sell that emotion. I want to believe that he's sad. I get that it's not real, guys. I get it. He's an animation. He's not real, but you can still sell your story through animation. And that's, I'm not gonna lie, that's what I be trying my best to do. It's hard to do with AI. It's so hard. That's why I can't wait to eventually get to that program where I can. But regardless of that, he sold it. They sold it for me. Even at this scene right here, it had me tearing up. Like even when after we watched the tape and we were just walking through of what the hotel was or is now, present time where James is at, and how lonely it was. Yeah, you might encounter a monster here and there, but it was so secluded. It was so lonely. It was so cold, empty, isolated, loneliness, right? So during that whole time, the reason why you didn't hear me like on the mic, because I was tearing up. And it's hard to get me to cry about anything, especially if it's not real. But they did such an amazing job with Silent Hill alone. And when I say on my live that this will be my final kind of thoughts on Silent Hill 2, other than comparing it or other than just saying, it was one of my favorite games, you won't hear me make another review for it for a while. It's just like this is the last review for me for Silent Hill 2. Um, because I've talked about it so much, it's time to move on when they make 3 and the original game and stuff like that. It's time for me to move on. So this is kind of like my last talk on Silent Hill 2 for now. But anyways, they did such an amazing job. Um, I will put the actual creatures. Let me look them up. Actually, I got my phone right here. Um, I'm gonna look up right now what those creatures were, and because I really want to know what the tall things were. Like for the most part, I know um what the most of them were, but the little. So I believe these are actually closers as well. So they changed their names up before. So I'll actually put this. I'll bring this up on my side. So Lying Figure is the straight jackets. They used to be called straight jackets, but they changed it. A horrifying humanoid creature encased in a tight, fleshy cocoon, resembling a distorted, suffocating straitjacket, maybe of its own skin. Its head is twisted downward and obscured. Its only subtle, unnatural movements hinting at the face beneath a crawling or stumbling forward, a releasing acidic sprays from the vents on its chest, attacking with desperate, frenzied motions. So those are your lying figures slash straight jackets. Oh my gosh. Um, Creeper. It's the little bugs. They're not roaches. So for all the people out there that keep calling them roaches, they're not roaches. Creepers, a small skittering insect-like creature that scuttles across the ground with unnerving speed. Its grotesque, misshapen body resembles a hybrid of a cockroach. So it is a hybrid cockroach, I guess, and a spider. It's a hybrid of a cockroach and spiders. Hardened segment shell, twitching, and spinning legs. Of course, you got the mannequins. Obviously, I'm not going into full detail, but like I said, I'll bring it up as we go, and I'll put it on the screen somewhere when I edit it. So don't forget, Silent Pink Gamer, put in the stuff so they know what I'm looking at. Mannequin. And then you have the bobblehead nurse. They haven't changed that, of course. We're getting to them. We got they're called Mandarin, an insect-like creature that lurks just below the gated floors or ceilings, with long, grotesque arms reaching upward to grasp at anything above. Its emaciated, elongated body hangs suspended in midair, particularly hidden beneath the floor, and its head appears trapped in a fleshy cage-like structure, giving it a torture restrained appearance. So that's what it's called. It's called a Madrian. I'm pronouncing that all kinds of wrong. So it has the mouth of a flesh lip. If you guys remember, flesh lips is the boss that we fought in the hospital, right? So it has the flesh lips and technically face to a point, but it has like the closer aesthetic. It's really cool. And then of course you know who Pyramid Head is, guys. Who doesn't know Pyramid Head? Then of course you got Flesh Lips, Abstract Daddy, of course. Um, so so I'm gonna read Abstract Daddy. I was trying to debate if I wanted to because a lot of people didn't quite get why the Abstract Daddy looks the way it looks. But if you listen to Angela's story, how she's acting, what's going on, you gotta kind of read in between the lines. I like the fact that Konami, the devs, Bloober Team didn't. Obviously, Bloober Team didn't make the original story, but the point is the devs didn't go directly into and say, yeah, this is what happened, is because they wanted to tell it through imagery, words. They wanted to tell through imagery. They wanted you to figure it out. They wanted you to find the missing puzzle pieces, basically, initially, especially in Angela's story. So, an Abstract Daddy, a fleshy mass bound to a stained bed-like frame with distorted human forms writhed against each other as it's trapped in perpetual torment. Its infused, faceless body, its twisted limbs suggest the themes of abuse. If you get what I mean. If you get what I mean. Because one of the bodies is literally, you can tell it's literally on top of another one. Repression, moving toward the player with unsettling jerks and spasms, representing a deeply buried trauma and pain. The Abstract Daddy is a haunting manifestation of suppressed memories and unresolved suffering of Angela. I have to say it like that because so many people believed that Abstract Daddy and the knife has to do with James. Yes, most of the story has to do with James, but not everything. We are experiencing and also going through Angela's story and Eddie's story and Laura's story as well. Yes, it might not be as fully flourished as James or even say Angela's. Eddie's and Laura's are kind of like not as the other two, but for the most part, you get what happened to her. You get her story, right? Um, all creatures in Silent Hill 2 except Pyramid Head are female. So giving them female names was appropriate. Check out my live streams, guys. They are James' projections of Mary. So I was correctly correct. Give me a high five for that one. I was so correct about that one because whenever I showed a lot of my friends or new people that comes into the game, I tell them about Silent Hill. I said the monsters, the reason why they look the way they look, the reason why they look the way they look is because that's how he projected. He put his projections of attraction and sexual attraction of his wife. That's why the creatures, all the creatures in Silent Hill, look the way they look because of the main protagonist, antagonist. That's why they look. That's why they have sexy legs with heels, but their bodies is monstrous. Like Mary said when he was walking down the hallway in that final stroll. Um, as a creature, except Abstract Daddy is a creature of being projected by Angela, which James, we are looking by his perspective. So basically, the Abstract Daddy is Angela. So of course, Abstract Daddy is basically initially Angela's projection. But that's how James sees him because of what she's told him. And obviously how she's acting. You're putting like obviously even the imagery on the wall when you're going into fight the Abstract Daddy. Look at the fleshy walls. Look how they're moving. Look at the holes. Like it's implying, if you get what I mean, actual abuse. You know what I mean? So this game, like I said, it's not for the faint heart, guys. And, and I get it. It took me, like I said, it took me the second or third time around playing this of the original game to really put two and two together. So I don't blame people when they first play the game to not get it right away. I like how you can't guess it right away. But if you see the imagery and if you see what's going on, it's right there, guys. It's right there. And of course, Mary was the final boss. So I wanted to go over the creatures with you because, like I said, the creatures are something that I not just the story and the emotions and the environment, I also look at the creatures. I love how, though a lot of their creatures are simplistic, it works. You don't need really exaggerated, grotesque, bloody, gory, leggy, army, multiple head type creatures to make something work. Sometimes it takes the simplest pieces of artwork to make the dream come true, to make it realized, to make it just fit, right? And this is James's and slash Angela's and Eddie's personal purgatory. And when I say it like that, it's because, okay, so of course I never honestly looked up Silent Hill, like, what's the truth, right? I just took it from when I played the games, I interpreted it from what I think is going on, and then that's how I understand the messages. So, what I looked up is for most of the game, as far as what Silent Hill is, and as far as of understanding of the monsters to a point, it's up to interpretation. So everyone is not necessarily wrong and everyone's not necessarily right, but it's your interpretation. The story of what happened between James and Mary is truth. What's going on with Angela is truth. Eddie's a social psychopath narcissistic is true. What's happened with Laura is true. But how things are portrayed and what's really going on with Silent Hill, what is Silent Hill, that's up for interpretation. Now, I feel like Silent Hill is purgatory, it's limbo, it's like it's a little common joke that it's in between my close circle of friends. It's a personal joke. And the joke is, James, you messed up, so bring your ass back. Let me teach you something real quick. And that's basically the way I took it as a funny joke. Because You know, Silent Hill has a way of punishing people without having to, other than fighting creatures and surviving and stuff like that. But look, he got a message from his dead wife. Regardless of how quick or soon he did it, he had got a message from his dead wife and said, "Come, I'm waiting for you in my special place." Like Silent Hill, man. I think Silent Hill is the OG in here. I think Silent Hill is the Reaper right now, and Silent Hill is the place. Silent Hill punishes you. It's making you live out your life and what you did. And yes, Laura, as a child, she's. I truly believe, and this is my personal opinion. Laura's there is just guilty by association. She knew Mary. She knew what was going on. She was mistreating. She hated James, so it made sense why she was there, right? So that's how I felt it. Obviously, there's probably more to it, but like I said, that's what I'm sticking to. I could look it up, but hey, you know. So there we go. So this game, guys, this is what horror should be. Let me give me a drink. Give me 1 second. I'm trying so hard not to tear up. That's why I keep like pausing my mic because they did such a beautiful job. The puzzles, I like how they renewed the puzzles. I like how they brung so much more forward. I love how they gave Maria more of a mature look, more than a slutty look. Um, I loved the way that, like I said, they didn't have to change too much. Obviously, of course, they changed the environment. They changed with the environment. They gave us more houses. They gave us more open world per se. They, but what they did, it still felt like Silent Hill. Though, yes, at times when I first played it, I'm not gonna lie, I was severely overwhelmed because growing up in the back in the day where we had simplistic graphics and simplistic times and simplistic, everything coming into a lot of these newer games where there's so much detail, there's so much things to see, there's so much to pick apart. I get overwhelmed really quickly. So I'm like, wow. That's why I take my times. If you guys watch my streams, please do check them out. Um, I take my time and kind of just look at everything because not only will I have a better experience, but it won't overwhelm me so much, right? But yeah, so I give this game a 1,000 out of 10 because it's beautiful. It's like a sweet soft poem. Silent Hill, and if you notice, if you guys ever played any of the Silent Hills, each Silent Hill is different because of the purgatory of the person that you're playing. So depending on what they did or why they're there and how they're guilty will depend on the why Silent Hill creatures look like that and what's going on and how they're portrayed and why they're being portrayed like that. Look at Downpour, for example. Downpour, you play as Murphy, right? And you start at he's in jail, he's in prison, and then we had to take out that one chunky guy. I will put the pictures up, I promise. And just that scene alone, and you see the creatures, right? Obviously, the screamers kind of throw me a little bit, but I can only guess because of what happened with Murphy's story, why they're screamers. But if the big the big guys that twitches and freaks out, they're basically like prison fighters. That's why they got the sweatpants on, no shirt. Literally, if you look at most people in prison, that's what they look like, other than the grotesque face from how Silent Hill creatures look. You know how they look. Outside of that, that's what people in prison look like, right? And that's why they fight with their hands a lot and they kick you and they're strong. Like I said, there's a reason for everything. You just gotta put the puzzles together, right? But it's beautiful. I'm gonna try my best to go through every boss. Like I said, I don't want to make it too long. Um, I want to do my best to stay on track. Sometimes it's hard. Because like I said, I do this raw. I don't have a script. I kind of just say how I feel from my mind and my heart, and I just go with it. If it clicks, it clicks. If it don't, well, at least I tried, right? So, bosses, right? The very first initial boss was technically, if you want to go technically, because I like how there's not like full, like big, heavy bosses you might encounter. Like, for example, you encounter Pyramid Head and stuff like that, but he's kind of like a Reaper. He's there to taunt you. Yes, you have to fight him initially as like a semi boss, but then the final boss is at the end. Like the final fighting is with him is at the end. So when you first encounter Pyramid Head at the hospital and you're battling out, I love the way they changed that up. I like how it wasn't in a room. Like you literally walk into the stairwell stairs and then there he is doing what he does to Mannequin. And when I say doing what he does to Mannequin, I'll try to find a gif of it. Basically, it's showing kinds of abuse if you get my drift. And that just tells you once again of what James really, the frustrations that James have. The frustrations that James has, how he put his projections of his sexual frustrations towards his wife about, because when she's sick, of course, most men, they don't, you get, you know it makes me feel a little weird talking about it because it's like so many. I believe in the saying that everyone has a good side and everyone has a bad side. It's not always, and there is some gray. I felt like we saw James's gray area, right? We saw Mary's to a point of her story, of her black, white, gray area. Same thing. Eddie, we just saw completely black. Angela, we saw a little bit of gray, some black, and some white, right? So everyone has a good side, everyone has a bad side, but he did sexualize his wife. He did have these sexual frustrations because obviously he couldn't. He could probably, but it probably would hurt her, especially her being sick, right? So he couldn't have, in his eyes, he couldn't have those sexual relations with her. He couldn't really do what he used to do with his wife, right? So he sexualized her, and there are some implications that he also aped her, if you get what I'm saying. So he probably did, at times, do horrible things to his wife and thinking that no one's gonna know, but Silent Hill did. Same thing, like when it comes to her verbally outlashing James. We saw that in the hospital. As she got sicker, she felt more disgusting. She felt more lonely. She felt more like, you don't even want to be here. You don't even want to do this. Like me. And so she just, all her frustration and anger came out while she was sick. And believe it or not, guys, I'm going to give you a little tidbit of my story. It happens. Now, when my dad got sick, he didn't necessarily lash out my mom. He just stopped trying. And my mom, she was a little woman. My mom was only like 5'4", 5'5". Honestly, I'm gonna take that back. She was 5'2". Let's be real. Let's be real. My mom always said, "Tell people that I'm 5'4", 5'5", because she doesn't want to." She liked being short, but she didn't want to make it seem like she was that short. But she was about 5'2", 5'3". She was little, and my dad was a 6'1", 250-pound dude. Like obviously, my dad was more on the slender side. Um, he wasn't buff or anything like that, but he was a tall, big dude, right? Size 13 foot, right? So, and my mom, when he got sick, he was basically initially bedridden. She was the one that washed him and helped him, and he used to help her because he knew my mom was little. She couldn't do it, and like I said, a lot of times when she did a lot of this, we were at school. You know what I mean? So seeing that at a house, seeing your dad that used to be the main provider, seeing your dad that used to do everything for you, and then he kind of just stopped. And he just kind of just, he was just a bed, basically, it felt like. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's why it was hard for me to go talk to him a lot of times. I'm not going to even lie. It was so hard to talk to him because He was just laying there. Sorry. So so he was just like it's hard. It's not for the faint heart, right? So so like I said, so he just kind of stopped trying. So my mom eventually had to put him in hospice because she couldn't do anything. He became dead weight initially. You know, that's how she interpreted it. And literally, the moment the moment they took him to hospice, like literally the next day he passed. It was that quick. And seeing him laying on that table, and like I said, the last thing I could do for him is I kissed him on his forehead and just picturing how cold, like he was so cold. He was so cold. From going from a warm body to a very cold body, it's crazy, right? So as a person, when they're sick, they show different forms. She was verbally abusive. You know what I mean? Extremely verbally abusive to James. So it was weighing on him. He was tired. You know what I mean? She felt it. Like, and that's what I mean. Like, when people go through things and they see the people around them looking at them a certain way, people pick up on that. Yes, it could be, insecurities and projection. Like, okay, they're judging me. This is how they're seeing me, not knowing how they truly feel. But you can also read people's facial expressions. You can read it when they're tired, when they're exhausted, when they're just fed up, right? So that's why I hurt for both of them. I don't hate James. I don't hate Mary. I don't hate Maria. Obviously Maria was more of in, once again, as Silent Hill is kind of saying, hey, this is what you think of your wife, basically. Now, her being a real person is up for interpretation, of course. I believe it was kind of like she was at some point in time her own being, but she became Mary, if that makes sense. It was Silent Hill basically toying with James. That's why she kept implying, like, you want to touch me. You want to touch me. I know you do, basically. Taunting him. So, Silent Hill, Silent Hill, you're a jerk. So, yeah, so that's why this game is so special. That's why I said after this, I have to let it rest for me. Because, though, yes, the situation is different, but the same, seeing, like I said, seeing a sick parent, seeing my mom go through it, seeing my dad go through it, it's a lot. And this game is personal. Not just because it's a great horror game and it's something that's really fun to play, it's personal. It's really personal. But they did absolutely fantastic. 1,000 out of 10, guys. 1,000 out of 10. If you've never played it, I do say go play it. Expect to tear up, especially if you get attached to the characters and really take in the notes and really take in, the environment and what's going on. I know I didn't fully go through each boss. I'm gonna go back to it. I promise, guys. You see what I mean? I get sidetracked. Ooh, sorry, but it's beautiful. I do believe the notes when they're talking about a guy running in and coming out. I do believe those notes were about James. I do believe that. Now the second boss after Pyramid Head was the abstract, not the abstract, it's Flesh Lips. Flesh Lips was cool. I like how they changed the fighting. I love how it was more of 3 rounds. And obviously much didn't change. He went from on the ceiling to crawling around on his metal legs. It's kind of like what they did with Mary at the end. I kind of wish they switched up Fleshless for Mary so it wouldn't be or wouldn't feel the same. Like they could have did a little bit more with Fleshless. Like I know in the original games you were in a small room. Once again, you're in a small room and there was multiple ones kind of just floating around. They should have kept 3. I felt like if they kept 3, it definitely that boss battle would have been different. I can tell you that much now. That whole boss battle would have been completely different. But it was cool. disgusting, grotesque, nasty. Ugh. But it was cool. The next boss you got initially, because I said like their bosses are not like um it's not like they're like boss, boss. You know what I mean? So initially, Abstract Daddy should have been the next one. Yes, Abstract Daddy was really cool. Like I said, like I said, most of his design didn't change, but I like how in the labyrinth they made him more of a force to be reckoned with, you know. And I really didn't like how they he been grabbing us. It's like uncomfortable, especially since, like I say, you know the story of what happened, right? You know the story, so it makes you severely uncomfortable when he touches you. You're like gross, nasty, ew, don't do it, right? Um, so obviously, like I said, Pyramid Head was just taunting you, but the Majorian, I did not expect that. I did not expect him to come through that wall. I thought it was Pyramid Head, you know, but the noise that thing makes, the tongue, how heavy, and the fact that they're all female. Sorry, Stephanie. My bad. I forgot the name that I've said on stream. I have to put it on there when I get the clip, but if I don't, it's okay. But I gave them female names and it was correct. That was actually accurate. That all creatures were female. Except for, of course, Pyramid Head and Abstract Daddy. But all the mannequins and the lion figure, even Flesh Lips, were female. Ain't that crazy? That's like Jurassic Park. All the dinosaur was female. It's psychotic. Um, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and of course the final Pyramid Head battle when you had to initially when James said basically I don't need you no more. Basically, that's why Pyramid Head took himself out. And one thing I also understand is Pyramid Head you can't just kill Pyramid Head. Pyramid Head, first of all, it's not like he's a person per se. It's more of he's his own entity, his own deity initially, and he can only take himself out of commission, or James can only take himself out of commission. You get what I mean by that. If you don't, just let me know in the comments, of course. And of course, guys, don't forget in the comments we are here with pink hearts. Um, and if you can't do pink hearts, because I was looking at that, red hearts is fine too. And then of course the Mary Boss. The Mary Boss was. I like how they changed it up. 3 rounds, of course. I like how it got more destroyed and distraught and like implying that her disease just got worse and worse and she got more angry and frustrated. Of course, at the end, um, suicide. I got the suicide ending where James takes his own life at the end, unfortunately. And that's another reason why it hurts. You know, he feels guilty of what he done. And if you guys didn't get it, he smothered her with a pillow. He smothered her. I believe that he also did it at Silent Hill at the hotel. I think he did do it there because there was a scene that I thought was interesting where he looked back in the back of the seat like she was there. Like he killed her before and then he got the letter. It's like that scene, like I said, I could be wrong about that completely, but he looks back in the seat and there was like something white. I think he killed her initially, like, and then he went to purgatory. Like Silent Hill literally corrupted his life initially and made him live out the moments. And the way the hotel looks is the hotel was never this beautiful place like we saw what it used to be, but it's not there anymore. It's where when they first went there, right? And I think initially when he took her, he took her life there. That's why another reason why I feel like the dirty work that you do on Silent Hill soil is gonna come back and haunt you tenfold. So that's why I feel like Silent Hill was after James. Like if he did it down street at Taco Bell in a different state, then maybe he could have survived it, right? But no, he did it on Silent Hill soil. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Right. Also, too, um, Silent Hill is a totally different demon. I can tell you that much. It's a totally different demon. Um, but yeah, that's my thoughts. I feel like I hit everything that I wanted to say. If I did miss something, I might mention it. But if not, hey, it's okay. But at least you got my full thoughts on it. It's a beautiful game. They did amazing. My heart goes out to both of them. Though yes, I get that they're not real, but my heart goes out to them. And it makes you think about a lot, especially about relationships, and it makes you think, if you start dating or if you're in a relationship, could you be there for your wife or your husband when they get really really sick, or would you leave them? Would you leave them? Some people can. It takes a strong heart because, like I said, you're gonna see the person that you love change. You're gonna see that person just wither away, and it's gonna hurt more because you can't do nothing about it, right? You couldn't save them. You can't give them all the medicine in the world. Even sometimes the best treatments don't work, right? So could you do it? But I hope you enjoyed this podcast, guys. Sorry I got a little emotional. Like I said, I'm still healing. I'm still grieving from my mom passing in 22, and yes, even from my dad passing in 2010. Um, it's like an experience that's going to stick with you, and it changes you, and it makes you look at things a lot differently if you get my drift. But regardless of that, guys, I hope you have an amazing day. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for the ones who tunes in later on in life. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I will see you guys so much soon. Adios.